edition of Food is the Best Medicine, Soul, Body, and Mind, where every week I come on to give you some quote unquote food that's either great for your body, your physical body, or food in terms of our thoughts for our mind, or food in terms of what really feeds our spirit, our heart, and our soul. So today we're focusing on food for the physical body, but also it's good for the soul as well. It's food we love that loves us back. So today we're talking about my no-bake protein pumpkin bars, which are a great little breakfast or snack treat and very easy to make and very delicious. I always get great feedback from clients with this particular recipe, but people had some questions on it, and so I wanted to talk about the process of it as well as the benefits. So these pumpkin bars are very high in vitamin A and magnesium. And so as we get into the winter season and they're talking about this new variant with the pandemic, we want to do more and more things to help to boost our body's own natural immune system. And vitamin A is a great nutrient, great vitamin to do that. And so pumpkin is a great food to help boost your immunity. And so these little pumpkin bars, in addition to being quick, simple, and delicious, they're also nutritious because they're very high in vitamin A. And in fact, you get about a third of your requirements of vitamin A just from one serving of the bar. They're also high in zinc and high in magnesium, and both of those also are great for the immune system. And all three of these nutrients support our brain health, right? And so we're now going into the holiday season and our brains get taxed because we're at the end of the year and there's also so much busyness and so many events that are considered stressful to our nervous system that our brain really does take a big hit in December. And then we have to get up and go in January and be ready with a new vision and new resolutions and new everything. Go, go, go. So December is a great time to not just boost the immune system, but also to start boosting brain health to help us so that no matter what comes our way in the new year, we are stronger, right? So no bake protein pumpkin breakfast bars is what I call them. So the ingredients that we're going to use in this, as in all of my recipes, they're all gluten-free and dairy-free. So we are using coconut flour. So we're going to get some good medium chain triglycerides, which will help you stay full. They control your blood sugar. So coconut flour is a good gluten-free flour to use. We're going to use a vanilla protein powder, and you can use any kind of protein powder that you'd like that's of a vanilla flavor, and it does add to the flavor of the bar. I chose to use a hemp protein powder, and I would not say this one is the best one to use because it's green. So it's going to change the color of your bars a little bit. Even though the orange will help offset the green, it does change it a little bit. If you use like a whey protein powder or my favorite plant-based protein powder, which is Plant Fusion made out of pea protein, it's actually white, even though it's made out of peas. And it has a great flavor. It mixes in really well. That's what you want to look for, the flavor and its ability to mix in really well. If it mixes in well with a smoothie, it will mix in well with this particular recipe. This one mixes in well, but it also has a different color. All right, we need almond butter. So you can use your favorite almond butter. I like using almond butter that I grind at the store. So it's, at least in terms of the butter, it has all of the nutrients that comes from the net still in it because it has not been sitting on the shelf forever. And those are kind of the three main ingredients. We do use pumpkin. I use a canned pumpkin. I don't have the can right here, but I use any organic canned pumpkin. You want it to be the soft kind of the pureed kind. It makes it easier to mix in. And then we have some liquids. We're using maple syrup. I like using Vermont maple syrup, and I always use organic because maple syrup typically is processed with formaldehyde. And since we are about being nutritious and healing, this is food is the best medicine, we want to avoid using a lot of chemicals and additives and preservatives and all of those types of things in the ingredients that we use with all of our foods. So the organic maple syrup does not have the formaldehyde in it. We use a coconut butter in this, or you can use, this is raw coconut. It's pretty much the same thing. It just has a different name as raw coconut, a whole food, as opposed to the coconut butter. Butter is a little bit creamier. It has a little bit more oil, so it spreads. But this, for its purposes, works very well. And we use a little bit of almond milk and then some seasoning, some vanilla and some cinnamon in this. So to make this recipe and to make it so that your bars will set, which has been a question from several people who have made this in the past, you need to have the right equipment. So when you are measuring out the solids, you need to use the metal cups, or I mean, they don't have to be metal. They could be made of another material, but these are the types of measuring cups that you use for solids and powders and things of that nature. And then for your liquids, you want to use this type of a measuring cup, okay? The measurements, 1/3 cup of this versus 1/3 cup of this, is a little different. And it will make a difference in your recipe, especially this one, and how it sets. The other thing is that when you're measuring, you want to fill it to the top and level it off. So you want to take a little, just get a little knife here. You want to take the knife and the back of it, which is straight, and level it off like that. So that will also ensure that you're getting the actual ingredient, not too little, not too light. When I used to teach cooking classes, people used to just kind of pour it in and it wouldn't be exact. And in baking is more of an exact science. Cooking is very creative and like lots of flow, but baking is a science. And so measurements make a difference. And especially in this recipe, they really do make a difference. Okay, so how do we make this? First, we're going to use, and if you want the recipe, you should go on over to my private Facebook group, Real Food, Real Joy, Real Healing. That's where all recipes get posted from these shows. So even if you go back and you're watching a video from a prior show, you can always go into the private Facebook group, I think under files, and you will find all of the recipes that we post. We post them every single week, so they are there. So we're doing 1/2 cup of this. I'm going to show you how I measure that. Right? So I'm using my 1/2 cup measuring cup. I fill it up. Now, some people take this and they will dump this into their recipe, right? Some people have it like this and they will put that into the recipe, and you can see it's not quite full. So what I do is overfill it, and then I take the back of the knife and I make sure I fill in any spaces, and then I just shave it off. Okay, so when I shave it off, I have a nice even level for the solid, right? So I'm gonna put the coconut flour in, and now I add my protein powder, and I do the same exact thing with my protein powder, right? So we talked about types of protein powders, and now we're talking about the process and measuring. And you always want to make sure you have the right measuring cup, because if it says 1/4 measuring cup and you use 1/3 because you're not paying attention, that will affect your recipe as well. So we have once again, I fill it, and you can see how this one is green. And then I take the knife and I just shave it off until I have a nice even level. And I add that in. And now I'm going to add my spice. I'm going to get my spice. And we're adding in some pumpkin pie spice. So everybody has some pumpkin pie spice. I like buying my spices at an herb shop or a shop like Earth Fare is our organic shop where I am right now. And this is where I would go and buy the organic spices, often from a company called Frontier, which is pretty good. They retain the medicinal value of the spice. Okay. So we always want that because we are talking about food as the best medicine. Now, just like with the measuring cups, you want to make sure you have the right measuring spoon. Ooh, I think I got stuff all over me. The right measuring spoon. So in this particular one, I'm just using like a quarter cup, three quarter teaspoons of the pumpkin pie spice. And again, I level it off to make sure I have the right ingredients leveled off. I'm using the 1/4 teaspoon spoon and doing 3 of those to get 3/4 teaspoon. Okay. Don't try to take the 1 teaspoon measuring spoon and estimate 3/4 when you're baking because it will be off. Okay. And then I have this in my bowl and I just whisk them to mix them together. So it's very important to mix all the dry ingredients together before you add the wet ingredients to it. Okay. So that is step 1, is taking care of the dry ingredients, mixing them all together, making it very easy, using the right measuring tools so that we are assured of having the right measuring amounts. And now we're going to do the liquids. So for this particular recipe, you actually have to heat the almond butter and the syrup together, and so that they will blend together. If you try to put them into the recipe just as it is, they will not blend. And yes, your bars will be kind of soggy. They will not set. So we're going to use a little saucepan on medium heat, and I'm going to add the almond butter and the maple syrup, and then I will talk as that is blending in together. So we're using a 1/2 cup of this, and remember the recipe is on the private Facebook group, Real Food, Real Joy, Real Healing. And so I have my almond butter. I am packing it because this is a solid. I'm packing it into my solid measuring cups. I will make sure that I have exactly 1/2 cup, not too much, not too little. So you want to pack it down. This is also going to be important when you're putting your pie, your ingredients into the pie plate, that you pack it down. Okay. So you can see I am making sure that it's level. It's not too much, not too little. I add that to my pan. My pan is on a low heat. And I will show you kind of the process as I'm going through it. And I'm adding maple syrup. Now, some people would use the 1/3 measuring cup here for the maple syrup, but because maple syrup is a liquid, you actually want to use this. Okay? So this is for liquids. And again, when I measure the liquids, I want to make sure that I am exactly at the line not a little bit above, not a little bit below. So I set my measuring cup on a solid surface so that I can see once it settles, am I at the right amount? If not, then I was a little bit over. So I am pouring a little bit out until my level is directly in line with the 1/3 marker. Now I pour this into my cup. So this is another important step. I have my heat on low, and I have the oil, and I have, not oil, I have the maple syrup and the almond butter, and I'm going to just mix them together, and I'll show you kind of what's happening as I'm mixing them together. So if you have had a pumpkin from Thanksgiving or a pumpkin from holiday, most people have lots of pumpkins from Halloween, and then they save them for Thanksgiving, and then after Thanksgiving they throw them up. But you can cut your pumpkin, you can put it in the blender, take all the seeds out, put it in the blender, puree it, and then freeze it, and then you have pureed pumpkin that you can use for all kinds of baking, and you can use pumpkin in your food, in your vegetables as well, to add a different flavoring and much more vitamin A. So as I am stirring this, the maple syrup is starting to blend in with the almond butter. And this typically takes just about a minute to mix this all together. If your almond butter, however, has been in the refrigerator, it will take you a little longer to blend them completely. But you want to make sure they are blended completely. I'll give you a look at what it's looking like right now. I'm going to blend it just a little bit more because I still see some liquid, right? So if you have liquid showing, it's going to make your bars liquidy, softer, right? So they do not set as well. Okay, so now this is looking very good. And this is what the final consistency looks like. Okay, so you can see it's all well blended. Now I add a little bit of vanilla extract to this. And again, you want to use the right measuring spoon, and you do not want to add too much, not too little. You want to go right to the top. Okay, so I have a perfect amount of the vanilla extract. I add that in, and I stir some more, right, until that is all blended. So when you blend one thing at a time like this, it ensures that all the ingredients are going to get blended in a way that will be smooth and won't affect the texture or the taste. When we dump things all together, a lot of times it's not fully blended. Okay, so now this is blended. So there's the look again. And I have my dry ingredients, I have my wet ingredients, and I'm going to add the wet into the dry. So not the dry into the wet, but the wet into the dry. So I'm just putting it into the bowl. And I'll give you a view. This is what it looks like. And now I mix it up. Okay. So I'm going to mix this up, and I'm going to add the pumpkin into this. So once again, we're doing pumpkin. It's pureed pumpkin. So we want to use the solid measuring cup for this. And I'm using the 1/2 cup again. So this 1/2 is used a lot. But instead of just throwing it in like this, I want to once again make sure that I have exactly 1/2 cup. So there's a little patience that comes with baking. It's very nurturing and nourishing to our soul to bake, but you have to pay attention as well. So you can see I have the right amount. I'm adding that in. And then I continue mixing. Okay? And I want to get it very nice, all blended up. Some people have added their almond milk before they blend the wet with the dry, and that tends to make it a little bit too liquidy, and your end product will be a little bit too soft as well. So I like to blend it all up. And you can see it's getting more thick. I'm going to show you the consistency in just a second. It's going to be like a big ball. And once again, depending on the color of the protein powder that you use, it will either be more orangey or it will be like my color, which is orange and brown mixed. And what do you get? Green. Okay. All right, we are almost done with this. Okay, so now I have it mixed up. It is very thick. So you can see it's very thick. It's like a nut butter thickness. And to just thin it a little bit, I'm using the almond milk. And I'm using 1 tablespoon of this, okay? When you use almond milk, you should always shake it so that you get the fat and the water. Otherwise, the fat of the almonds falls to the bottom. The water is on top, and that's what you will be putting into your recipe. I'm using the 1 tablespoon measuring, and again, it's right at the line. And now I do my final mix. And this is pretty much it. I'm going to mix this. I will add in my desired condiment. Like I'm going to put some chocolate chips in this one. I'll use the dark chocolate chips. I have some 75% dark chocolate chips. So I will use that. Okay. And let's see my chocolate chips. And for the chips, you can use more or less of what you would like. And the recipe, it's about half a cup. So I use my solid. And I add those in. So this is the final ingredient that I'm adding in here. And it's looking so delicious. Also, another reason to join the private Facebook group is I'm going to be offering some holiday support. I will teach a Kundalini yoga class. We'll do a little Kundalini meditation. I will also be providing some new recipes that you can use, holiday desserts that you can use all this holiday season. This is such a festive season. We have Christmas, we have Kwanzaa, we have Hanukkah, we have Hanukkah, which one of my mentors is sponsoring. We have Diwali. There's just so many holidays happening around this time of year. And so having healthy desserts that you can love, that love you back, is a real treat. So now I have my final product before it sets in the refrigerator. You can see kind of the consistency of that. For this recipe, it's best to use an 8x8 pan. And then when you use the pan, you're going to press it into the pan. I'm going to show you what this looks like. This is how pressed it is into the pan. So what I did was to take a little coconut flour and put it on my hands and then I take my dough and I press it down into the pan. I want to not just put it in there, but I want to kind of pack it down. Just like I pack the almond butter into the cup, I'm packing it into the pan, and then I let it set, right? So you can let it set in your refrigerator. Typically a few hours. Overnight is really good. And then you have bars, right? So I'm going to show you the finished product. This is what I made last night. I took the coconut butter, I melted it in the microwave for just a few minutes, and I just drizzled it over the top. So you can see my nice chocolate chip in there. And you can see it has a nice frosting on it. It's very delicious. You can also make balls with it. So this I would call my pumpkin ball. Same ingredient. I just took some of the dough, rolled it in my hand, made a little ball, and then I dipped the ball into the coconut butter for the frosting on it. So nice flavor, not too sweet. It's great for your blood sugar. It will not spike your blood sugar, even though it has a little maple syrup. It has the pumpkin, which is very high in fiber. It has the coconut butter with the hemp seed protein powder. It has additional fiber that helps to keep the blood sugar stabilized. The coconut flour also helps keep the blood sugar stabilized. So you have a very high fiber, nutrient rich, high protein snack with chocolate flavor that everybody loves, that gives you something quick, simple, nutritious, and delicious that you can serve to your family or have as a snack for yourself. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Food is the Best Medicine. We're going to see if we have some additional questions come in. Hello, Miss Michelle.
Hello, Zana. And from somebody who has made this recipe several times, I have my own questions and comments from your demo. But Kara brought this in, and you did mention this, but she said that her pumpkin bars, she thought they might have been soft because she used collagen powder instead of protein powder, and that's why they were soft. So she'd use protein powder. What type should she use? Whey, pea, rice, etc. But I have used protein powder too, and they were still maybe too thin or whatever. But I think I know the reason for mine. But anyway, we can get to my
Yes.
question. That's Kara's.
And what reason might that be?
So this is so I used a rectangular pan and pressed it down, but I think I should have used a smaller, like I do have a round pie pan, so maybe that's part of it because my bars were too thin. I didn't know I had to keep it for several hours. And then I tried to slice them into bars. They were just like there was like they weren't hard enough. So maybe
Right.
like if I put it in a smaller pan, it would have been thicker. That was one problem.
Yeah, I think it's
You
important
know?
to use like between 8 and a 9 inch pan. So
Okay.
I had a 9 by 9 inch square pan, and then I had an 8 by a little bit more than 8. It was a kind of a round pan. So I decided to use that. It's like 8.5 by 8.5. I decided to use the round pan in it. But the key is making sure, yes, that the measurements are right, and then that you're really packing it in,
Mm-hmm.
and then just let it set for a few. I would let it set for a few hours in your
Oh,
refrigerator.
I thought it was 30
Overnight is
minutes. Or,
great,
yeah.
but I made some last night, and they were very easy to like just cut into a bar. You could see this is not sticky or anything. It's kind of like a nice size there.
But I like the ball idea. I was actually thinking about that, so I might do that instead, just because, I have to say my husband absolutely loves these. He just is crazy about them. I think I'm going to make them tonight. But I had a quick question too about the drizzle, and other people might have this question too. Is that if I don't have that coconut butter, I was thinking of like I have all these chocolate chips, like dark chocolate chips, and I was thinking of melting them. And for another one of your recipes, I thought you melted chocolate chips in the microwave, but when I tried to do that, they burned. So how do you microwave? Can you
So
use that as a
yeah, that's a
drizzle?
great question. And when you microwave chocolate chips, you should do it for 30-second intervals. You just put them in a bowl, and you do it for 30 seconds on high, and then you stir it, and then another 30 seconds, stir it, another 30 seconds, stir it, till it gets to the consistency that you like, right?
Okay.
Yeah. If you overdo it, it's going to start getting tough and hard again. So
Yeah,
you
and
don't
it
want to
burned.
burn it. So
Not
go
good.
slow.
But can you use that as the drizzle if you don't have the
Yes,
coconut
that would
milk?
be a great drizzle to put the chocolate on top. I actually like it with the chocolate on the inside and then the coconut butter
Yeah.
kind of flavoring on top. It's a nice combination.
But you mentioned a
Um,
dip. Like I could tell you my husband would love if I dipped that in a little bit of
you
chocolate
dipped it
'cause he's
in
a
there. Very.
chocoholic.
Ah,
So just another
yes.
idea, another
For the
option.
chocolate holics, yes, you could dip it in. It would be really delicious. So.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you for clearing that up.
Good question. So yes, so try the recipe, try it with these little refinements that I gave today, and then let us know how you like them. Post your pictures, especially if you get creative and you're making balls and you're using different types of toppings for the garnish. Um, Show it to us. We'd love to see it and love to hear your comments on how you're enjoying not just this recipe, but any recipe that you try that we provided there. So we look forward to seeing you next week on the same time, same channel. And hop on over to the private Facebook group, Real Food, Real Joy, Real Healing. Get the recipes. I will be posting a link next week for the additional holiday dessert recipes. So stay tuned for next week's show and you can get a copy of those recipes, which will be lots of fun for the holidays and beyond. See you next week. Have a great week, one.